It started with something small. A humming noise. I noticed it the first night in my new apartment, barely audible, like an electric buzz, right at the edge of perception. I wrote it off as bad wiring or a distant appliance in another unit. You'd get used to that sort of thing in buildings this old. But that noise never stopped. It came at exactly the same time each night, 2:11 a.m. I checked the clock one night to be sure. It would start soft, almost like a broken fluorescent light, and then get slightly louder, just enough to pull me out of whatever dream I was having. After a few minutes it stopped. I recorded it on my phone, or at least tried to. The audio file played back with complete silence. I tested the mic with other sounds. It worked fine. It was just that one sound that never came through. After 2 weeks, the sound changed. Instead of humming, it became a slow clicking. Mechanical. Rhythmic. Like something being wound up. I couldn't tell where it came from. Sometimes it felt like it was under the floor. Sometimes behind the wall. Always close, but never consistent. And then I noticed the objects. The first was a spoon, just a regular metal spoon, placed perfectly perpendicular to the floor, standing on its handle in the middle of my kitchen. I found it one morning, no explanation. No one else had a key. I checked my locks, every window. Nothing was broken or out of place. I convinced myself I had left it there somehow. Maybe it fell and landed weirdly. I didn't mention it to anyone. The next was a child's mitten. Small, red, and dirty. It was sitting on my pillow when I came home from work. My chest went cold when I saw it. I lived alone. No children. No guests. Nothing else in the apartment was touched. I started sleeping with a knife next to the bed. I bought a camera, cheap, motion activated. I set it up in the living room, aimed at the hallway. If someone was getting in, I wanted proof. That night I barely slept. My breath felt too loud under the covers, the air unusually cold. At 2:11, the clicking came again. This time, I didn't just hear it. I felt it. Like it was echoing inside my head, vibrating something behind my eyes. The camera didn't catch anything. No movement. No person. But the hallway light flicked on and off 3 times. I never heard the switch click. I showed the footage to a coworker. He laughed nervously, asked if I had a cat. I didn't. The next night, the apartment smelled like soil. Wet dirt. Thick and cloying, as if someone had been digging. I followed the scent to the closet near the front door. Inside was a pile of black earth. Just sitting there. No container, no explanation. And something was drawn on the wall above it, crudely, with what looked like the edge of a coin. A symbol I didn't recognize. Circular, with sharp angles inside it. It looked purposeful. I didn't sleep that night. I left for work early the next morning. When I returned, the dirt was gone. The closet spotless. No trace of the symbol. Not even a scratch. I started checking into the apartment's history. No violent deaths, no unsolved cases. Just a normal building, owned by a shell company in Nevada. The landlord never returned my calls. Then, last night, there was a note taped to my mirror. One sentence typed on a strip of receipt paper. "You've already agreed." I don't remember signing anything. But the door was still locked from the inside. And I'm not sure, but I think, the humming started before I moved and I didn't sleep after the note. Instead, I sat on the edge of my bed with every light on, the knife in my hand, shaking so bad I couldn't keep my grip right. That phrase kept turning over in my head like a spoiled egg. "You've already agreed." I tore the place apart. Every drawer, cabinet, every crevice in the walls. I checked behind mirrors, under appliances, inside air vents. I was looking for, I don't know. A wire. A camera. Anything. But the apartment was clean. Too clean. And the clicking started again. This time, it didn't stop. It just kept going, louder now. Closer. Like it was pacing. It didn't echo from the walls like before, it came from somewhere above. I looked up and realized I hadn't inspected the ceiling tiles. I dragged a chair under the hallway light and pushed one of the panels aside. There was a face looking down. Not a whole face. Just a part of one. An eye. Grayish-white skin. No visible emotion. I fell backward and slammed into the floor. By the time I looked again, it was gone. I called the police. Said someone had broken in. They arrived 20 minutes later, did a quick sweep, and found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No footprints in the dust above the ceiling tiles. They humored me, said they'd file a report, told me to get some rest. I didn't mention the face. At work the next day, someone had left a package on my desk. No return address. Inside was a small plastic case containing 3 teeth. Human. Adult molars. One had a silver filling. No note this time. I left early, stomach twisted, brain buzzing. I decided I wasn't going back to the apartment. I booked a hotel room across town. Clean, new, corporate. I told myself I'd sleep, then figure everything out in the morning. Maybe call my brother, ask to stay with him a while. Maybe even look into breaking the lease. That night, in the hotel room, I slept deeply for the first time in weeks. Until 2:11 a.m. I woke to the sound of something tapping gently against the window. Not banging. Not scratching. Tapping. Delicate. Precise. I was on the 4th floor. I pulled back the curtain with shaking hands. There was nothing outside. But across the glass, written in a gray smear, were the words, "You left something behind." I packed my things and drove until dawn. No destination. Just movement. Every stoplight felt like a trap. Every pedestrian like an actor in some unseen play. Eventually, I returned to the apartment. I don't remember unlocking the door. I don't remember falling asleep. But when I woke up, the apartment had changed. All the furniture was arranged differently. Perfectly symmetrical. My belongings sorted into neat piles along the walls. At the center of the living room, a small circle of dirt. And in the middle of that, a new note. Typed. "It begins tonight." That was 3 days ago. I haven't left since. Haven't eaten. I sleep only when I pass out. The sound never stops now. It hums, it clicks, it whispers sometimes. I try not to listen, but it's always there. And there's someone else in the apartment. Not in the rooms. Not behind doors. Inside the walls. Sometimes I hear breathing when I press my ear to them. Sometimes scratching. Sometimes something else entirely. Something that sounds like the rearranging of limbs. Whatever I agreed to, it's too late. They've moved in. And I think they brought others with them. We moved into the house on Orchard Road in late September, right when the trees started to thin out and everything took on that gray, brittle stillness before winter. My dad said we got lucky. It was a foreclosure, lots of land, half the price it should have been. I was 10. Old enough to understand something was off about the house, but too young to articulate it. From the moment we moved in, I noticed the backyard felt wrong. There was a fence that ran along the edge of the yard, but not a full one, just a short line of warped wooden posts, maybe 5 feet long, with rusted nails sticking out at odd angles. It wasn't connected to anything. Didn't border the woods. Just sat there, about 20 yards from the back door, like someone had started building it and stopped. I asked my mom why it was there, and she just shrugged. Said maybe it used to be a garden or something. But I didn't buy that. It looked too deliberate. Too clean. Like someone wanted it right there. The first time I noticed a man, it was from my bedroom window. It was just after midnight. I had trouble sleeping in the new house. The rooms echoed too much. I remember glancing outside and seeing a figure standing perfectly still next to that short stretch of fence. He didn't move. Didn't sway or shift. Just stood there, facing the house. I thought it was a shadow at first, or a branch tricking my eyes. But the next night, he was there again. Same spot. Same stillness. Closer. A few steps closer. I didn't tell my parents. What would I say? There's a guy outside standing near a fence that doesn't go anywhere. It sounded ridiculous, even to me. But every night I checked. And every night he moved a little closer. By the 6th night, he was inside the fence line. Standing dead center in the small opening, his head tilted back slightly like he was looking straight up at my window. That night, I locked my door and pushed my dresser in front of it. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I checked the backyard with my dad. He thought I was being weird, but he played along. There were no footprints. No sign anyone had been there. The dirt was undisturbed. The fence still intact. But that night, I saw something that made my chest go cold. The figure was gone. But one of the fence posts had been removed. Not broken. Removed. It was lying on the grass in front of the fence, neatly placed, parallel to the others. The next night, another post was missing. Then another. Until there were none left. The night after the last post disappeared, I didn't see anything at all. No man. No fence. Just empty yard. I started to hope it was over, that whatever had been happening was finished. But then I woke up to a sound I'll never forget. The creak of floorboards right outside my bedroom door. I froze. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The air in my room was too still, like everything was holding its breath with me. Then tap, tap, tap. The soft sound of footsteps, slow and measured. They stopped in front of my door. And stayed there. I heard something, bare skin sliding along wood. Like someone leaning against the door, listening. Then came the whisper, low and broken, like air passing through cracked glass. I'm past the fence now. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I didn't move. I kept my eyes locked on the door, barely blinking, waiting for the knob to turn. But it never did. When the sun came up, I shoved the dresser away and ran downstairs. My parents were already awake, eating breakfast like nothing had happened. I wanted to tell them. God, I wanted to scream it. But I didn't. Because I realized something. They wouldn't believe me, not because it was too strange, but because they didn't see it. The fence. The man. They never mentioned either one, never even looked out back. It was like that stretch of yard didn't exist to them. And maybe, in some way, it didn't. That afternoon, I forced myself outside. The sun was bright, too bright, and everything felt bleached and artificial. The grass where the fence had been was dry and flattened, like something had stood there for a long time. I stared at the spot, trying to piece it together. I was hoping for clarity. Hoping to see something I'd missed. Instead, I found something worse. A footprint. Human. Bare. Toes pressed deep into the dirt. Facing the house. I ran back inside and locked every door. That night, I kept the lights off. Sat in the corner of my room with a flashlight and a baseball bat, shaking so badly I thought I might throw up. I didn't dare look out the window. Not after what I'd heard. Not after what he said. I'm past the fence now. Around 2 a.m., the power went out. No sound. No light. Just the soft whisper of wind against glass. Then movement. I heard it from downstairs. A faint shuffle, like something dragging across carpet. Then the unmistakable sound of a chair scraping across tile. The kitchen. He was inside. I dialed 911, hands trembling. I whispered into the phone, but the line crackled. No voice came through. Just static. Then a click. Dead. I could hear him on the stairs. Each step groaned under his weight, slow and deliberate. I backed farther into the corner, flashlight off, holding my breath. I stared at the door. I waited for the knob. It never turned. Instead, something slid under the door. A strip of paper. I crawled forward, picked it up, and read the message. It's your house now. I didn't understand. I wanted to scream, to cry, to force reality back into shape. But I didn't move. I just sat there until morning, until the light returned and the world felt thinly normal again. My parents never mentioned anything. No sounds. No outage. Nothing. The next day, the house was quieter than ever. Too quiet. I noticed things had changed. Doors that had always stuck now opened smoothly. The kitchen tap stopped leaking. Even the creak in the hallway floor was gone. It was as if the house had reset. But that night, I saw something I can't explain. I was brushing my teeth when I glanced out the upstairs bathroom window. Across the yard, at the far end, near the tree line, was a new fence. Just 5 posts. Standing tall. Exactly like before. And next to it, standing perfectly still, was a figure. Not facing the house this time. Facing away. Toward the woods. It started with a smudge. I noticed it on my bathroom mirror one morning before work. A faint, grayish handprint, small, almost child-sized, pressed against the glass near the top right corner. I tried wiping it off, but it didn't budge. I figured it was on the inside, maybe between the glass layers, some weird manufacturing defect. But that didn't make sense. It hadn't been there the night before. The next morning, there were 2 prints. Side by side. Higher up this time. And fainter, like they were pressed with less force. I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. I live alone. 3rd floor apartment, windows always locked. No kids. No visitors. Just me. By the 3rd day, the prints weren't just smudges, they were detailed. I could see skin creases, the curve of tiny nails. And something else. Pressure. Like the glass was being pushed from the other side. I stopped using that mirror. I started brushing my teeth in the kitchen. It felt ridiculous, avoiding something in my own apartment. But every time I passed that bathroom, I felt it. A presence. Something watching. On day 5, I came home from work and found the bathroom door closed. I never closed that door. I stood outside it for nearly 10 minutes, frozen, heart hammering, listening for movement. Nothing. I opened the door slowly. The lights were off. The mirror was clean. I almost laughed. Relief hit me like a wave. I turned on the light, and that's when I saw it. The smudges weren't gone. They had moved. Now they were on the inside of the mirror. Pressed against the glass as if viewed from the other side. And in between them, faint but unmistakable, was a face. Eyes wide open. Mouth agape in a silent scream. I stumbled back, slammed the door shut, and nearly knocked over the hallway table. My vision blurred with panic. I couldn't breathe right. I kept thinking about those eyes, how they weren't looking at me, but through me, like they weren't from this world at all. I slept on the couch that night. Didn't go near the bathroom. Didn't turn on any mirrors. I didn't even touch my phone screen. I was too afraid I'd see that face reflected somewhere, watching. The next day, I called maintenance. Told them my mirror had cracked internally, some kind of moisture damage. They came by, removed the panel, and replaced it. I watched them haul the old one down the stairs, refusing to blink. The new mirror was clean. I made myself look into it. Forced myself to be rational. And for a few days things went back to normal. Until I noticed the closet. In my bedroom. The sliding mirror door. There, at the edge of the glass, was a single handprint. Fresh. High up. Small. And from the other side of the reflection, this time, I didn't wait. I covered the mirror closet doors with a blanket, duct taped around the edges, shut them tight. Then I sat on my bed with my phone in hand and tried to convince myself that maybe, there was some rational explanation. But every hour or so, I'd hear a small creak from the closet. Not loud. Just enough to remind me it was still there. That night, I had the first dream. In it, I was standing in the middle of my bedroom, but everything was reversed. The furniture. The layout. Even the light. Everything was mirrored. But more than that, it felt wrong. The air was still, the shadows too deep. And I wasn't alone. In the dream, someone was behind me. I could feel the breath on the back of my neck, but I couldn't turn around. My body wouldn't move. Then a whisper, raspy and strained right at my ear. Let me switch. I woke up choking, drenched in sweat. The room was silent. Still dark. I looked at the blanket-covered mirror. The duct tape was curling off at the corners. Something had been pulling at it. I left the apartment. Checked into a hotel that same night. Told my boss I had a family emergency. I needed space. Time. Distance. And for a while, it worked. I didn't see anything. No handprints. No dreams. Just a creeping anxiety I couldn't shake, like I'd only postponed the inevitable. On the third night in the hotel, I caught my reflection in the TV screen. It didn't move right. I blinked. It didn't. I tilted my head. It smiled. I screamed. Threw the remote at the screen, shattering the glass. People in the next room banged on the wall. I barely heard them. I just sat there, staring at the black, broken screen, trying to understand what I'd just seen. They kicked me out the next day. I went back to the apartment. When I stepped inside, everything smelled wrong, like iron and burnt plastic. My eyes watered immediately. I kept the lights off and walked through the apartment with my sleeve over my face. The closet mirror was uncovered. The blanket lay folded on the floor. And on the glass, in childlike scrawl written with something red and wet. I switched. I ran. Spent the night in my car. The next morning, I made a plan. I smashed every mirror in the apartment. Closets. Bathroom. Even the screen on my phone. Shards everywhere. I wrapped them in trash bags, took them to the dumpster one at a time. I left one thing intact. A small hand mirror. I placed it on the kitchen counter, face up, and stared into it. I wanted to see if anything was left. For a while, it was just me. My reflection. Same tired eyes. Same 5-day stubble. Then it blinked. But I didn't. And when it smiled, I knew. That wasn't me anymore. My apartment building is old. Built in the 1920s. It has that haunted feel even when it's empty. Long hallways, uneven floors, radiators that hiss like they're angry at you. I live on the top floor. 3rd story. The bottom level has always been strange. It's technically the basement, but the building layout doesn't quite make sense. There's a hallway down there, 6 doors, all painted shut. No numbers. No knobs. They told me it used to be storage. Then laundry. Now nothing. But sometimes, I hear footsteps coming from down there. I noticed it about a month after I moved in. Always late, 2:30, 3 a.m. sharp, slow footsteps. They walk the full length of the hallway, then stop. Never up the stairs. Never outside my door. I asked the landlord about it. He laughed. Said, "That floor's been sealed for years." I stopped asking questions. Then, last week, the power went out in the middle of the night. Not in the whole building, just in my unit. I used my phone flashlight and went to check the breaker box. The breakers are in the basement hallway. I stood at the top of the stairs for a long time, listening. Nothing. Just that kind of silence that's too still. I went down, heart pounding, each step creaking louder than it should have. The hallway was colder than I remembered. All 6 doors still sealed. Still knobless. But one was open. Just a crack. I froze. There wasn't light coming from inside. Just the suggestion of space. Deeper dark. The kind that looks like it might move if you stared long enough. I told myself to turn back. Instead, I walked toward it. The breaker box was next to the last door. I had to pass the open one to get there. As I walked, I kept my phone angled toward it, the beam shaking in my hand. I couldn't see much, just peeling paint, exposed brick, but I felt it. There was someone inside. Not moving. Not breathing. Just watching. I flipped the breaker. The lights came back on upstairs. I bolted back up without looking back. The next morning, the open door was shut again. That would have been the end of it. Except now, every night, I find dirt on my hallway floor. Just a little. Like someone's tracking it in. At first, I thought it was from my shoes. But I checked. My shoes are clean. Every time. Then, 2 nights ago, I found a fingerprint on my inside doorknob. The outside was clean. Only the inside had a print. That night, I jammed a chair under the knob, slept with a knife under my pillow. And last night, I woke to the sound of my front door unlocking. Not creaking. Not breaking. Unlocking. Like a key. I stayed frozen under the blanket, listening. The door opened slow. Then nothing. No footsteps. No breathing. Just silence. I waited until sunrise before I dared to move. When I checked the door, it was locked again. Nothing was missing. Nothing broken. But the hallway floor was covered in dirt. And in the middle of the living room was a folded scrap of paper. Written in shaking pencil, barely legible. You shouldn't have looked inside. I didn't leave my apartment for 3 days. I ordered delivery, left notes taped to the outside asking them to leave it by the door. I didn't answer knocks. I didn't check the peephole. I didn't sleep unless it was from sheer exhaustion. I watched the door like it might breathe. Each morning, I'd wake to the same thing. Dirt. A little more each day, creeping inward like a tide. Always dry. Always thick with that wetter smell, the kind you only get from deep underground. I stopped sweeping it. I didn't see the point. On the 3rd morning, the scrap of paper returned. Same pencil. Same shaking hand. He saw you too. That night, I dreamt I was back in the basement hallway. Except the layout was different. Longer. Endless. The doors weren't sealed anymore. They were open. Just a crack. And from each, I could hear someone whispering. Not words. Just breath. Dozens of people lining the hallway, whispering into the dark. I walked past them, unable to stop. I got to the last door. The one I'd seen open before. Inside was a staircase. Leading down. I stood at the top staring. Something was moving at the bottom. Not coming toward me, just shifting. Like it had just noticed I was there. Then a voice, impossibly low, from below. You came back. I woke up gasping, my sheets soaked, heart jackhammering. There was someone sitting in the corner of my room. I screamed, grabbed the knife under my pillow, and flung myself toward the light switch. Nothing. The corner was empty. But the window was open. 3rd floor. Locked from the inside. And now open. The next day, I found scratches on the inside of the glass. Vertical. Like fingernails dragging down from the top. I went to the landlord again. Demanded to know what was under that building. He didn't laugh this time. He just stared at me, pale and sweating. Then he said, Did the door open by itself? I asked what he meant. He wouldn't say more. Just gave me a long look and muttered, You didn't invite it, did you? He gave me a number for a specialist. Wouldn't explain. Wouldn't meet my eyes. I never called the number. Instead, I went back to the basement. Daylight. Noon. I thought it'd be safe. I took a hammer with me. Some part of me believed if I destroyed the door, the hallway, the source, I could undo it. But when I got there, all 6 doors were gone. Just blank wall. No seams. No knobs. No breaks in the paint. As if the hallway had never had doors to begin with. I stood there a long time, trying to make sense of it. Then I heard it. Behind me. Not footsteps. Breathing. Wet. Heavy. Right against the back of my neck. I ran. I didn't stop until I hit the street, still holding the hammer. People stared. I didn't care. That night I packed. I left the city. Crashed with an old friend 2 states away. I never went back. But sometimes I still wake up to find dirt on the floor. Not much. Just a trace. And once, only once, I found another note tucked under my pillow. A torn strip of lined paper, written in trembling pencil. Downstairs is bigger than you think. I was in 7th grade when Mr. Hayworth vanished. He was our science teacher. One of those tired-looking middle-aged guys who spoke softly and never smiled. He always wore the same green cardigan, no matter the season. One Monday, he just didn't show up. The principal came in to announce that he'd be taking a leave of absence, and that we'd have a substitute for the foreseeable future. That was all they said. We didn't ask many questions. Teachers disappeared sometimes. Got sick. Got fired. Moved away. But the substitute wasn't normal. He showed up the next day, no warning. No introduction. Just stood at the front of the class when we walked in, staring at the whiteboard, not moving. He didn't write his name. Didn't speak for the first 10 minutes. He just watched. We sat in silence. Uncomfortable. Some kids whispered. Then, finally, he turned around. He was tall, too tall, and thin in a way that made his limbs seem too long, like he had more joints than he needed. His skin was pale, almost grayish under the fluorescent lights. His eyes were sunken, dark-rimmed, like bruises. When he smiled, it felt like a mistake. "I'll be here now," he said. That's all. That was his introduction. That first week, he barely taught anything. He'd hand out worksheets that made no sense, diagrams of organs that didn't exist, vocabulary lists with words that weren't in any textbook. When someone asked a question, he'd just stare. If anyone misbehaved, he didn't yell. He didn't send them out. He just watched. And those kids never acted up again. Not out of fear. Out of something else. Like they'd seen something they didn't want to remember. I tried to tell my mom. She thought I was exaggerating. Said substitutes were always weird, that it was probably just a phase. But things escalated. By the third week, kids started getting nosebleeds in class. Always during science. Always silently. They'd sit still, hands folded, blood dripping quietly from their nostrils. And when it happened, the substitute would smile, just barely, like he was pleased. One day, I came in early and saw him standing at Mr. Hayworth's old desk, flipping through a stack of papers. But they weren't papers. They were photos. Black and white, faded, curled at the edges. They showed students, our classmates, but not in any setting I recognized. The backgrounds were blank. White. Like a void. And the kids were looking up. Every single one. Mouths open. Eyes wide. Like something was above them. I backed away, heart hammering. I didn't tell anyone. I was afraid to. Because I'd noticed something else. The longer he stayed, the more people forgot Mr. Hayworth. By October, no one mentioned him. Not the students. Not the staff. Not even the principal. His nameplate disappeared from the door. His room key was reissued. His parking spot reassigned. It was like he never existed. Except I remembered. And one night, I woke to find a folded paper slipped under my bedroom door. No stamp. No envelope. Just one sentence, handwritten in tight, perfect script. "You remember too much." I didn't tell anyone about the note. I shoved it into the back of my closet under a box of old clothes, but I kept thinking about it. Who had written it? How had they gotten inside my house? I started locking my bedroom door at night. Not that it mattered. Because 2 days later, I found another note. This one wasn't delivered. It was written inside my desk. Carved directly into the wood beneath my pencil case. "Memory is a wound." That's when I stopped going to science class. I faked sick. Hung out in the library. Told the office I had tutoring. Anything to avoid room 204. The guidance counselor called my mom eventually. Said I was falling behind. But I didn't care. Because the dreams had started. Always the same. I'm standing in the hallway outside room 204. The door is open, but the inside is dark. Too dark. Like the room goes on forever. I can hear something breathing from inside, slow, measured, wet. Something that shouldn't be alive, let alone inside a school. In the dream, I step forward. I always step forward. I don't want to. I try not to. But my legs move anyway. The darkness wraps around me like cold silk. I feel hands on my shoulders. Thin. Sharp. Pulling me in. Then I wake up. Covered in sweat. But not alone. Because each time, there's a paper in my hand. Folded. Damp. And always blank. One morning, I stayed after homeroom and asked the principal, flat out, what happened to Mr. Hayworth. She stared at me, confused. Said she'd never heard that name before. I told her he taught science last year. Her face changed. Not recognition. Not confusion. Fear. I think you should go back to class, she said. I didn't. I skipped again. Hid in the stairwell. That's when I saw him. The substitute. He wasn't walking. He was standing at the bottom of the stairwell, perfectly still, facing the wall. I was 3 floors up. He hadn't moved. But when I blinked, he was looking at me. No head turn. No step. Just there. Watching. I ran. That night, I found something new in my room. Not a note this time. A photo. Old. Black and white. Same style as the ones I'd seen on his desk. It showed a classroom. Desks. Students. A teacher at the front. Except, the walls were gone. Just white behind them. Endless. And every student had their head tilted up. Mouths open. Eyes wide. Looking at something above them, just out of frame. Something impossible. I flipped the photo over. Scrawled in red ink. You're next. I begged my mom to let me transfer schools. I lied. Said I was being bullied. Said I hated the curriculum. Said anything but the truth. She finally agreed. My last day was quiet. No one said goodbye. No one noticed I was leaving. Except him. He stood outside room 204, watching me as I walked past. He didn't speak. He just smiled. And I swear to you, his smile never ended. His mouth just kept pulling open, farther and farther, until it wasn't a smile anymore. It was a door. I left. New school. New teachers. New town. I thought it was over. Until last night. When I walked past my bathroom mirror. And taped to the glass was another note. Same tight script. Same paper. There are more of us now.